I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings in the movies, and I'm not proud of my address.
We're not just building muscle, we're building men. In the quiet hours, in the unfiltered moments, in the conversations that happen before the world wakes up. This is the Gloom, where brotherhood forms in the dark so we can lead in the light, where vulnerability is strength and leadership is handed from man to man, one story at a time. Our mission is to empower, exhort, and inspire men to achieve their best selves through stories of reinvigorated male community leadership. We bring you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha PAX, ordinary men doing extraordinary things in fitness, fellowship, faith, and leadership, because we believe that every man has a story, and reinvigoration starts when that story is shared. This is the Glue in the Gloom. Shout out to our sponsors, Avior Wealth Management, Liberty Core Real Estate, Major Team Mortgage, Exclusively Eye Care, Omaha Laser Dentistry, and McNamara Law Firm. We appreciate your support. Yo, Gloom listeners, it's the Plague. Let me talk to you about our F3 brother, Amazin, aka Patrick McNamara with McNamara Law Firm, right here in Old Town Elkhorn. Amazin helps small business owners set up their companies, draft and review agreements, and make smart legal decisions so you can focus on growth instead of putting out fires. He also helps families with estate planning, like building living trusts that make sure your kids are ready when the time comes. Don't leave their future to chance. Connect with our brother Amazin today at McNamara Law Firm and put the right plan in place for your business, your family, and your future. Now, let's get back to the Gloom. And we're live. We're here at the Nomad. Man, I love getting to hear guys' stories. And, this guy in particular, Reflux, is our guest today. I've just really enjoyed getting to know you, man. I think, you're just as your family's growing, as you're, getting into fatherhood and what that looks like. You've shared a lot of wisdom with me over the years on pre-runs and rucks and all of that. And, I would be amiss if I didn't also introduce this large-headed creature over here named Gator.
Chomp.
Gator is, if you're paying attention to the Gloom episodes, we're kind of doing co-host round robins here. So we've had Stripes on a few. We got Gator joining today, and just excited for Gator's perspective. He will definitely ask questions that I don't think of. So Reflex, this is all about you. So start from the beginning, sort of. Would love to hear the EH story, but maybe even, I don't know, what was going on in life before the EH story and how that all unfold.
Yeah, no, first thing, just thanks for having me. This is exciting. I listen to it pretty much weekly now on the new stuff. So it's been, you guys are doing a great job. No, a little bit before the EH story, I think I was EH by Splinter Cell is his name.
Nice.
So I know him as Jason, but my wife and his wife are friends from like childhood. So my wife actually became a PA because of his wife. And so he had been asking me probably for like a year and a half to join this group. And I remember being like, nah, dude, I'm good. That's early mornings. I kept making the excuse that my work life doesn't allow for it. So, but then I was getting, yearly physicals. And I kept saying that the LBs just kept stacking up. So I got one done. I think I was like 182. And for me, I'm kind of a petite fella. So that was, too much. And I was like, wow, I need to make it kind of a drastic change or a change. So I texted him. I'm like, I really need a butt kicking. Like, I know you got this workout group you've been raving about. Like, what's up?
Yeah.
He just kind of said, meet me here tomorrow at 5:30. And it was the battlefield. And he's like, don't drink or don't eat, make sure you're hydrated and don't eat anything prior. I was like,
okay.
Sweet, here we go.
Interesting.
So showed up. I couldn't even tell you who was on the queue, but I remember I got worked pretty good, as most EH stories. I hear, and I was sore for like weeks. But I ended up going back to the battlefield probably every week for like a month, just every Thursday. Particularly more for getting more to know Splinter
Mm-hmm.
through this experience, and then also just because I didn't know anything else really. And then I found out, hey, there's more sites, and there's actually like 3 by my house. I should probably span out. So I still like to make the battlefield when I can. I know my VQ was at the battlefield just because Splinter was a site queue at that time as well.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to give him a nod of like, hey man, thanks for what you've done. And I'll be 3 years in October.
Wow.
So haven't changed. I'm not planning to stop this group. It's been fun. So
And how'd you get the name Reflux?
So I got the name Reflux. And it's funny because, you always kind of coach people on the age, like if you don't want a name or whatever, but I was trying to play on like, I really like soccer is my favorite sport. And like this is also I like golfing and all of this jazz. And everyone's like, yeah, cool, bro. Like that's enough. Keep moving. I was like, well, I have a 9-month-old at this time as my son is 3 now. He puked on me before I showed up today. And they're like, oh, sweet. And then someone yelled reflux. And I was like,
That's the name.
better than barf bag.
Yeah.
So I'll take it.
It seems like Splinter maybe had a little premonition there and telling you not to eat before the workout.
Yeah.
I was worried about you splashing Merlot and you end up with the name Reflux.
Yeah.
That's right. It's great. I mean, you grow to love the name. It's really pretty unique. I don't think I've met, when you do IPC, you find other guys that have similar names. And I was like, I don't really think I've seen another Reflux yet. So
Yeah.
I could be the only one, maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah. The next guy will be like Prilosec or some, some sort of proton pump.
Pepto.
Proton pump.
We have some Peptos, I think. So
Yeah. Well, I love, Splinter Cell, who, should have been named Morningwood, but that you can't say that at church.
Bleep that out.
What a great guy to sort of have in your corner. I would be curious. So you mentioned kind of going to the battlefield. How long until you ventured out to other sites, and then what was kind of your journey there?
probably a month and a half,
Okay.
or 2. I think the next one I ended up going to might have been the Berm, just because whenever I go for runs or anything, like I run around Flanagan all the time because I live close by. And I was like, oh, there's a site right there. And then turns out Schnitzel was its queue, I think, the site queue at that time. And I found out through pre-running that Truly was my neighbor and Schnitzel also was my neighbor. So shout out to those guys.
Yeah.
And thanks for being great neighbors.
You're in that neighborhood with all the really nice yards then.
Yes, my front yard's nice, backyard not so much. My dog likes to shred it apart, but that's okay. She's not allowed in the front. So
I love it. What so you start working out.
Mhm.
Did you, and you mentioned pre-running, so I would be curious, like how long?
probably 3 months.
Okay.
I think I started like, all right, because I know Splinter's a big runner and he would, I run before him. So when can I do that? Whenever you want.
Yeah.
You ready for it? And I think I said, sure. And I just started doing it. And now, I think I got a physical the other day. I'm like 170. So,
Nice.
say I'm starting to actually lose more weight at the moment, training for a marathon. So I'll be driving 165 by the yeah. Should be, it's been great.
That's awesome. I would be curious. One of the challenges, right, when new guys come into F3 is like, how do you digest all the stuff, like number of AOs, and then what's a coupon, and pre-running, and then like, oh, you guys run a half marathon like, how did you progress? Have you tried all the different like sandbag sites and all that? Like
the only thing I really haven't done is sandbags.
Okay.
And it's I think it was because that site launched. I was still TyQ at Catalyst, so I was still running every day.
Yeah.
Also, I'm assuming my form is probably trash, so I don't want to hurt myself. And knowing me, I'm a gamer. I like to try and keep up with big dogs. When it's not.
Yeah.
I need to stay with low weight for that. So I'm planning on going out there. I just haven't made it yet. But everything else, coupon workouts are great. Weights are great. Um, Rocking is fantastic. So I'm all in on pretty much everything. It's the fitness side.
Nice. You mentioned the improved physical or just dropping some lbs. I would be curious, like, have you noticed any other improvements? Like, were you a runner before, or?
So yeah, I grew up playing soccer, so I've always been a runner. It's been
Okay.
something I'm very comfortable with. A lot of times if I'm like overly stressed, let's go run. So I was doing a lot, like even during I think I during like the everyone was at home working during the kind of pandemic ish COVID era stuff. My friends and I got on like running kind of thread. We're trying to see who could run the most each month.
Okay.
So like I would run, and that was like before. So it's like 2020. I think I was running like 60 to 80 miles a
Wow.
just because my buddy in Atlanta was running like 100. He also would like home, and I was still working hospital where I
Yeah.
was working. So,
Wow.
but no, I mean, yeah, fitness for me has been something I keep up running and a natural, like where I kind of, you talk about within like we've talked about it at church at least with like, where's your quiet place on where you hear God the most and after. So a lot of times it's while I'm running,
Mm.
probably around like 4 or 5. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So, and I grew up watching my mom. She ran marathons. So watching her run been something that, from that experience, just like, all right, I can do.
I think it's interesting that you bring up the sort of accountability text thread that you had before F3,
Yeah.
and then you mentioned that you felt like your fitness was dipping before you decided to reach out to Splinter to come out. What was that like for you, where you could find accountability in F3? Is that something that kept you going back to workouts?
Yeah. I mean, F3 is so great for like the accountability portion's fantastic. But it's like as males, and I mean, we need other male friends to do things with. And, friendships are really hard to have when you're older, especially when you have children. So the part I really love about like is we're all committed to early mornings where we it happen.
Mhm.
You have coffee, you catch up, you can check in with whoever you need to. But the other part is very much the accountability side. I mean, it's all great. And honestly, we all are all moving in the same direction. I always say.
Mhm.
There's times where essentially might not always agree with the same stuff, but we're all always there for each other. That's why I think F3 brings a lot about like friendships. Like the second F part is what I know you come for the workout, but now I'm like all about the coffee, the faith, the COT. Like the
Yeah.
workouts are fine. That's going to be great. But the more I can hear about like, all right, what's your story? And like, how can I help you if you need it? Or what are you going to offer for us to be able to help somebody else who might need? Because there's so many people in the same sort of situations you don't know about.
Mm.
That's why I really,
Yeah. I love it. And kind of thinking about, so when you started F3, you had a 9-month-old, and now you have 2 additional
Yeah.
kids.
3 kids.
And so, thinking about kind of on that second F, sort of theme with like your M and your 2.0s, would love to also kind of get your story about Shield Lock. Like, talk us through, like, I would love to know, like, as you added kids, how did you have that conversation with your M about still posting, or how have you navigated that?
Yeah. It's, I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Same.
There were times where, my wife, she works, it's usually a 12-hour shift. If babies aren't sleeping very well at night, I won't post for the fact that like today she works like a noon to midnight, and that's typically her shift, either 12 to 12. So like if she's up at 6 in the morning and working till midnight, like it's a long day for her. And I understand that. And,
Yeah.
there's times where, we had, I think it was a CSOP, I think, on the Saturday that I was sitting there, went and worked out, and then I was getting home and she was kind of grumpy about it. And I was like, well, and I go, what's wrong? She's like, I've been up since 5:30. You left at 4 or whatever. And kind of, And I go, oh, and you have to work till midnight. That's my bad. I probably shouldn't have done that.
Mm.
But now the agreement really is usually if she works, I don't post until the child, like our newborn, is 3 months old, till they sleeping regularly through the night. Then we have another conversation. But typically, like she works, I don't post, and um, yeah, or the or whatever. But when
Yeah.
I was the site Q, when I had to ask permission if she's cool with me doing that. I was one of the, not permission, but like, hey, I want to do this. This means every Wednesday, no matter what, I'm there. What do you think? And she's like, well, all right, it's good for you. Let's go. So she's been very supportive. But it's very much as long as I have the conversation. Communicate, everybody.
Yeah.
Your wives, they're great.
Tell us a little bit, sort of how long you've been married, and then remind us sort of names, ages of the kiddos.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been married coming up on 5 years,
Okay.
actually. So I met my wife. My story a little bit is I traveled around the country working for all my 20s, moved back to Nebraska when I was about 30 years. And at that time, I never really, I always wanted a wife, never really prayed about it.
Yeah.
So one of the pastors, who actually is a F3 guy, he doesn't post much. His name's Rob Johnson. So shout out Rev.
Yeah.
Listen to this.
Yeah.
But he was my pastor at the time and was like, hey, did you ever ask God for anything? Well, normally, no, I don't really. I have a hard time with self-worth and like other things. Or I can, but he's like, pray about it. And so kind of the time started praying about, hey, God, I think I'm ready. And I'm totally content if your answer is no. But like, cool to have a wife.
Yeah.
And I met her name's Elizabeth. Met her probably like 6 months later, actually.
Wow.
And after like the third date, I'm like, yeah, I like hanging out with you. This is fun. This is good. And at the time, so we got married. I was 33. I'll be 38 this year. So coming up on 5 years, we have 3 kids, a 3-year-old, a 19-month-old, and a 3-month-old. So Lincoln is my oldest. He is awesome. He's super smart. So he's a kind of ornery at the moment just because he can get bored. You got to keep him entertained.
Yeah.
And Sophie is my middle child. He's that sweet spot of like 18, 19 months. They're just perfect. All kids, I feel like at that age is just fantastic. And then Emma is our youngest, and she's 3 months old as of 2 days ago. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
I love it. And I love to, it's funny because we sort of have some, they're not contracts, right, in the written sort of sense, but we at my house, we have this similar, like, okay, if they're all sleeping through the night, and I've been stuck at 3 posts a week for a few years, but maybe our youngest is 18 months and maybe we'll be getting to that. Maybe I can go out 4 days a week, but I love hearing, as you're talking through this, I love just sort of like faith is a part of all of this stuff, and we'll sort of get to that, right? So
Yeah.
you were, even before you met your wife, right? Faith was a really big part of your journey. But I'm curious, like, as you got into F3, so clearly, right, you're married, you're starting to have kids, and then you start to sort of develop this other like circle of guys. You got the accountability. I think you're in a shield lock, and
It's a large group, but yes.
I would
it
love
is.
to hear, like, talk us through that, because I think some guys, like, they hear that term and they maybe don't. It's like men dating, kind of, not really. I don't know. That's maybe the wrong term, but it's some guys I feel like shy away from that because they don't.
It's a situationship.
Yeah. But like, what's been your experience? Because I think it's been good from what we've talked about.
Yeah. So shield lock for me, it's been very positive. So I have a small huddle is what I call it, that I've been doing for over 3 years with the same, group of 4 guys, and they don't post. None of them want to do it. I've asked them all, so it's fine.
Sure.
But that's my Friday morning. So Fridays I don't post normally because I've been in a Bible study for the last 3+ years. But within my shield lock, I think it happened probably almost a year old or so. But Billboard reached out to a group of us and like, hey, like, I know a lot of us already like text each other on like, where are we going? What are we doing? Let's try and make this more of a check in on like, how are you every time? So he kind of had the idea, and it ended up being, I think we have a group there's 9 of us. But we meet every other Thursday. We got a cadence. We started reading just the book of Titus.
Yeah.
And then we actually went into the biblical book of Titus. And now we've just been reading through the Bible, but also it's growing. It's fun. Some people have different faith journeys and they're in a different faith part of their life on like their relationship with Christ, and like watching some guy's eyes open, is incredible, very heartwarming. And also like, you remember the day that you had that same thing. For me, I mean, I've been a believer for a while, but like I just remember that and how exciting it was, and how exciting it is now. So now we're more intentional. We could do our check-ins. Everyone is engaged, and that's like the point. Is I think when we started, it was like, hey, everyone needs to provide something or a value or be engaged, because if you're not and our group's too big, like we can split, we can shrink it, or we can figure it out, because it's very important for us to each, like, one of the hardest things I think for all men to do is confess if there's sin in your life.
Yeah.
And like, you know, mine as a parent at the moment, like, is trying to make sure I'm not reacting out of anger. And that's something that I've been focusing on. So again, it's just stuff like that where as males, we always hold everything in. So this group gives the avenue for anyone, if they're hurting, to speak up.
Love that. I think one of the questions I would have for you on that, I know some of the shield locks I've been in, I tend to suck all the air out of the room. So how do you do that when you meet with 9 guys? Is it like you each get 2 minutes, or do you, maybe if some guy's really hurting, you dive into that, or how do you guys manage that?
So we usually start. So a lot of it was more around like, it's kind of like a book study in the sense with a check-in at the beginning and end. So there's weeks where I don't say anything, but like, how's everyone doing? Does anyone need prayers? Thing that you're struggling with, what can we do to help you? And then we always assign everyone or one person that week, or they volunteer like, hey, I got the next 3 chapters.
Oh, okay.
So right now we're going through the book of John. And we're probably like halfway through it, and it's just like, all right, I got the next 3. And then, but before and after, it's like, what can we do? And then end in prayer. So a lot of it's catered more towards, we all wanted to grow our faith. We all want to have a better relationship with Christ. So let's make that our main priority. So the main chunk is reviewing gospel. But we also leave time at the beginning to talk, or someone can raise their hand if they really need something.
That is awesome. It's almost like you're applying like workout principles of rotating leadership, right, to this, because not every guy has probably had a chance to like lead a group of other men through, Bible verses, so that's a really cool.
Yeah. And it's great because like, Misty and I were in we go to the same church. So him and I have been in it. We call it a city group. We're in a church group together this last year. We're actually splitting, and my family and a couple others are going to lead one, and then he's still continuing to lead. But how he had the cadence the last season for us was to rotate leadership. And it makes sense. Our F3 is meant to build leaders, and how do you do it? And a lot of people are very unsure of themselves within the faith, but like, just know you all have a certain, everyone interprets things differently and a very good take on stuff. So there's guys who are more like, I'm a very literal person, so it's really easy. This is what it says. This is what I'm going to teach you. But like, there's other guys who are very deep thinkers in our group that like pose questions. I'm like, I would have never at all thought of that. Thank you. So it's a good way. It's like, just know, like, even if you're a newer believer, like, you add so much value to trying to put together leadership. So guys do spend time, and it's just really great to see them all go through.
How is your F3 experience, whether it's just hearing a message in a COT or really drilling down into it in a group setting where you're looking at different things, perhaps the concentrica, things like that? What has been your experience as far as being a better husband and being a better father?
That's great. Good question. I think I've been learning more from others helps to be a good father with life experiences. But from being part of F3, my wife's like, you're always, you have energy, your attitude's better. Um, I feel like you get the angst out of the day when you start working out, honestly. I feel like it's the same thing with me when there's days when you just like read a nice, great passage in the Bible and you're like, all right, I'm charged. But like, I know days when I'm working out or like when I post, it's like I have more energy that day. I'm just cruising and everything comes a lot quicker because my mind's already sharp before I step in. Um, Even when I come back home, it's like ready to go. So, and then also I always say the encouragement of like everyone knows, as I've said it even with most people, my number one priority here on earth is my relationship with Christ, and second is my wife. So these guys are encouraging me to like, hey, be better for your wife. Or like, even I think one day I was running with running with like T Swift, and I had like a rough night with the baby, and I was just like, man. And he goes, man, you got to give yourself some grace. You were beating yourself up pretty hard. Like, we all make mistakes, but the best part is, like, you didn't like what happened and you can be better next time. I was like, yeah, thanks. Sometimes somebody just telling you, hey, man, like, give yourself a bit of grace and you'll be fine. So that's kind of I don't know if that answers your question.
That's great.
But yeah.
Yeah. I always love too that most of the time when I'm complaining, I never get the response that I want, which is really like, yeah, man, you're right. You should go back
Right?
home and tell your wife how right you are. I've never had a guy respond to me that way, even though that's probably what I would like. It's more of the like, you need to chill, or like maybe you should sit down and listen to her side, or like give yourself grace. It's great advice. I mean, I think it's, but I don't know if you've had this experience, but it to me, somehow in F3, maybe it's the relationships we had, it doesn't ever come off like advice. It just comes off like another guy sharing what they've been through. But I don't know.
No, I mean, a lot of it's good. Yeah, you're winded and running. So it's like half, you're like, maybe you should, and it works. So I don't know. I agree. But it's also like peer to peer. So, I always say feedback instead of criticism, but the feedback is great. I love it. Constructive feedback is anything I can do to be better. I do my best to accept it. And you have the rapport, even like it's an F3 brother of yours. Like, you're like, all right, this guy's good. He's about the same things as I am, and I'm willing to listen. I think that's the best part about our group. Another good part about our group is like the barrier and the door's broken down for like people to be able to listen to others as long as you're ready.
You mentioned earlier that the hardest thing for you and just generally for men is being able to confess when they have sin in their lives. And that's oftentimes when you do that, you find other people that are struggling with the same thing you are. Have you found that to be kind of a powerful way of making yourself more comfortable with the idea of being vulnerable, both, in F3 settings and just in your relationships?
Yeah, honestly. I mean, with those groups and everything, with sin is everywhere. We all sin. And the best part is like, first understanding that, but then being able to share it when you do. Usually like there's 3 guys who are like, yeah, me too, man. And then you can link up and have accountability groups if you need them, or guys will just randomly check in and text me or text whoever and say, hey man, how you doing with this? Like, what can I be praying for? And that's definitely, it's empowering, because I think when you try and hold it in and try and conquer things on your own, it just usually never works out.
Yeah. You made a comment, and this is maybe a little bit of a rabbit trail, but I have to go here because I'm just curious. So you were talking about in your 20s, you traveled around and did all this cool stuff. Can you talk us through like what was your job? What were you doing? And
so I work in construction. I'm a project manager locally here, but I used to work and do intercity metro transit authority work, like railroad systems. So yeah, out of college, I lived in Dallas. Then I moved to Denver for like 4 months. Stayed in like 5 different hotels in 4 months downtown. The big Union train station downtown, that was the one I finished with the electrical platform, all that stuff there. Moved back to Dallas. Then I moved to California and lived in LA for about a year and a half. Then I was in San Francisco for a year. And then I was in DC for like another year and a half or 2. doing all railroad work. So,
Okay.
that was kind of my travels. And through that whole time, you know, and we'll talk about faith, but like my ups and downs with following Christ was like pretty minimal. I was just living for myself. California was, I would say, great to be there with weather. Probably like some of my most least faithful. I didn't ever go to church, didn't even care to think about it. That was my time where I would say I did a lot of like just very selfish in that sense, but I was working a lot. But so yeah, lived in Dallas, Denver, LA, San Francisco, DC, all in that 7-year span. I got turning 30, was basically would work, go home, work every day. I was kind of angry, had no community, no anything. And what I was wanting in life, I was like, I want a spouse. I would love a house. And like, I need a church community. I had none of that.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to be 30 and there's no prospect or any potential here. I need to change my life. So found a job back here, quit and moved back home. Loved my experience. Like the work was great. It's just the lifestyle was not conducive or not helping me get to where I wanted.
Interesting. I would be curious, what do you think sort of like spurred that desire for those things?
I would say the grace of God in that sense. I was actually started going to like a church close to where I lived in DC. There was a sermon one day and I just remember thing, happy with where you're at in life. Assess and think about what's you and that being a pastor, Jesus should be your pretty much number one priority at that time. Yeah, that's not anything what I'm into right now, and I should probably get back to that. So, yeah, pastor. I could probably guess where the church was at. It was like elementary school, Arlington. Woke up and I'm like, you know what? I'm angry all the time about that. I always tell people, say to myself, is like, it's your choice to be angry. You got to figure it out. So
You mentioned anger a couple times as we've been talking. You know, we have this concept called the jester in F3. Have you looked at that? And is that, do you feel like that's your jester? And if so, what are some of the wisdom you can share with us on how you've overcome some of those battles?
Externally to others, I usually come across pretty happy, pretty joyful. Internally, I think I'm more my jester like self-criticism, doubt, self-worth. So I'm a kind of like when I was telling you about, like, I prayed for a wife. Like I never ever prayed for my until I was like in my 30s. I never felt worthy. And so that was kind of, I would say, my self-worth, my own internal thoughts of myself. That's probably my gesture sense. So
How have you worked through that?
prayer.
Or how are you doing today? Yeah.
I feel the word I'm getting right now is surrender. And that's the more honestly just seeing and my life where I'm at now and like blessings, you know, and how God has answered prayers that I asked for myself finally. Been very much, oh, you were worthy. Bible, it says so. Christ, he died for you. There's nothing you can do in life. Earn salvation. But through Christ you have it. So take heart in that. And I'll just like, that's kind of where the more I walk with Christ is where I'm like, oh, great. It's good. He brings joy. Blessings of children. 3 kids. Where I was at when maybe 1 or 2 or none.
Yeah.
Now I'm like 3. And I think my wife was like, we might be done here. I'm like, I don't care. Whatever we want. Let's get 6. We can do it.
I love it.
If God allows it. I mean,
Splinter's got some advice for you on that.
I know he's got 8. I don't know if I can match that.
You need an army.
You never know. Abraham had Isaac at 99, so we'll get there.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Liberty Core Real Estate is your homegrown real estate broker. If you're looking to buy or sell real estate, whether personal or investment, Armando, aka Brian, and Megan Michaels' company is ready to serve you. With Command Center in Old Town Elkhorn and agents all throughout the metro, they are more than ready to guide and serve you in your next real estate endeavor. Whether your next move needs to happen now or in 5 years, call or text Armando at 402-770-2165 to get your questions answered. And a special offer for F3 Nation PAX members, Liberty Core will donate $250 to your sponsor of choosing for every closed transaction. Stop looking, start finding today with Liberty Core Real Estate. Well, I know you have mentioned several things around faith, but would love to hear sort of the backstory because, and I think you mentioned this, right? But being able to get through those, early 20s and some of those that where I think most guys maybe fall off, right? Even guys that grew up in the church. So talk us through what was faith like growing up and how did it become this sort of like core to who you are?
Yeah. So I grew up going to church. I think it was roughly 16. And before then, like my mother she passed away when I was 14. And she had leukemia, passed away. So she letter and in the letter, there's a lot of things like her faith in Christ gives her comfort, passing, knowing that she will be in heaven. And at that point, I'm like, okay, yeah, I should probably figure that out. Even then, I was basically like, oh, it's for later. I'm going to be selfish, focus on myself. And when I was 16, I remember feeling my first heart feeling of believing in Christ on Brown's speech in school.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what he said, but I remember at the end, he's like, hey, whoever wants to come pray with me, come down here. I was like, let's go. But then shortly after that, it fell off and I still got into partying, being a selfish person. As well. But then same thing all through college and church much, didn't do that stuff. And when I got into my 20s, like Dallas, God, I had a unfortunate thing happen to one of my buddies that me and another guy kind of sat there and looked at me like, we need to really get our life together and start prioritizing focus. So 23 years old, went to a Tuesday church thing every week, me and him for a year. And that was probably when I started to, or this is the way. Start being definitely ebbed and flowed because I moved to California shortly after, didn't that stuff. But then I moved back here. It took a year of seeing on my priorities, kind of dating, kind of besides understand and finally hear what God's got to tell. Probably my number. I'm or have a hard time hearing him until after the fact, oh, this is what he was trying to tell me. Okay, got it. But so from then on, I moved ever since I moved back here. So I was probably my 30s, started really walking. Best to understand and recognize this is more tempted over here. This is my struggles. This now last 7 years been way better. Life's been better. It's exhausting.
Yeah, I would be curious, and I appreciate you sharing all of that because I think it's, I would be curious the impact your folks. So losing your mom young, and then your dad, did he help instill some of that as you were going through sort of those teenage formative years without your mom, or what was that like?
My dad and I have a great relationship. He's always been in my, no matter what, very much like a sport, but he's a low-key subtle sport guy.
Okay.
And very much it's funny why he's very humble and he doesn't like to take credit for a lot. So he'll just oh, well, I just tried to pull me in, but
yeah,
that's it. And it's you did a lot. You set the example. You showed me what unconditional love is. You showed me exactly how a father needs to be his children. Set that example. So I'm very thankful for that with him. Even now, with my kids. He'll be like, "Hey, it's their birthday." He's a banker, so he set up a gift. I gifted them each X, Y, and like they all have a couple $100 in their account. You're welcome. You don't need to do any of that. Fine, great. So, yeah, that's what and self-sacrifice. I know he didn't date or anything. So like I left the house, college,
Interesting.
started to like talk about it. So he goes, "No, I didn't have time. You, sister, thank you for sacrificing that for us. Setting the example. How you."
Yeah. Wow. It's so cool. I always think about like as fathers, we have this opportunity, and I love that you mentioned that, like the example that your dad set for you. I would be curious, like as you have gotten into F3, like one of the whetstone, right, is sort of a topic that, or a thing that comes to mind. Like, have you been able to also get some of that from other F3 guys that are maybe further along the journey, giving you maybe some of their experience? Or because I know you've been able to do that, even like for me, so just hearing what you're going through, and so it doesn't necessarily have to be an age thing, but just kind of curious,
Yeah.
like that mentor mentee sort of thing. Have you found any of that with the guys in F3?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, just speaking of Whetstone, I led Q Source there on Tuesday, and we talked about schooling.
Okay.
And like always willing to learn and having that yearning to learn more and to be better. So, I mean, through F3, just small things, even like I said, with the run with T Swift on just like, hey, give yourself some grace, like some stuff, guidance or anything I need assistance with, just small things. Usually I get a lot of advice on the pre-run than I do during the beatdown.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons I love it is like, it's the time where it's usually you and two guys that you get to really share your heart. Because a lot of times in the beatdown with 20 other guys, you don't have a time to be like one-on-one with the guy because you're around.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, being a sponge is also a great thing whenever you're running, is to being able to chat with people. And like, if you really listen to others, you're going to learn a lot.
The other question I would have for you, since you mentioned Q Source, and I hadn't been to Q Source in a while, but I went to probably the best Wednesday site in all of F3 Omaha, Paradise Island. And
wow, saying that in front of a Wednesday
and
wow.
Hey,
I get it.
Agree to disagree.
Give you a hard time, but Q Source is really where my question was going. Like, if you guys that haven't been or participated in Q Source, like, I don't know if you could give like a sentence or two, like why should they go?
You should go because you never know what you're going to learn.
Yeah.
Every experience I've been has been a positive one. It's been different. It's kind of like a Bible book study. Everybody has a different take, and some guys are very deep thinkers and others are really literal, but no matter what, you're going to take away something and be like, okay. And it's another way of getting to knowing people too. You're going to have conversations with guys that maybe you've never met before, and they'll share a little bit about themselves, and you're fine.
Heck yeah.
So now that Plague's got his Paradise plug out of the way, tell us about what it was like to take the flag at Catalyst and what that experience was like.
It's a very, very good Wednesday site. It's in my top 5.
I'll be on the queue there next week, so it's gonna be cool. No, Catalyst is funny. So I live probably 2 miles from there, and it's ever since I think the first time I went there, I was like, oh, this site's really close to my house. So I went there and we started running. I'm like, so like, when are we going to do Merkins? Like, what's going on? And they're like, no, this is it. We just run. I'm like, well, I could do that on my own. So not throwing shade or anything, but that was one of the first experiences there. So I'm like, all right, well, cool. That was nice.
Mm-hmm.
So when Stripes reached out and Truly to be the next site queue, I was like, dude, I've only been there like 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So like, why me? And they're like, well, we think you do a great job. And I was like, well, let's talk about it. And so we did. And they brought in like, hey, we want you and Bullseye to take it over. And like, I had not really known him at the time. So I also took it as a great opportunity to meet another guy, and to share something with him to, his experience and his life has been incredible just to see and be a witness to watching where where he's at now from where he started.
Mm.
So that was kind of fun. So yeah, taking the flag and was like, all right, well, let's do this. And then I still go back. Probably I try to get there as much as I can, but I love it. Like I really grew to love just, and I would pre-run most of the time. So I'd get maybe 8 to 9 miles every Wednesday. And that would be you can run fast, you can run slow, you can ruck, you can just walk if you want. And it's for everybody. And I think that's the best part I love about it is like we brought in the rucking side to it. It was like, it's for every person that could be, and especially guys that are like hurting or, have some injuries. They would show up and like, hey, I can't do a lot, but like, I'm going to just walk. Like, cool.
Yeah.
Let's go. So, it was great. I had a super positive experience.
And how did you find your successor there?
Man, I think we were coming around to it's flat stick and walkabout. And flat stick was just, he came a few times every now and then. And I remember like, I thought he'd been a site queue before. So I was just like, never asked him. And then one day I was sitting there, I'm like, wait, you haven't led a site. And he just goes, no. I'm like, what would you think about this one? And he kind of was like, I don't know. Let me think about it. And then walkabout, I saw him every week at Helix. And I was kind of chatting with him and like, hey, do you go anywhere else? Like, what about this site? And he kind of mentioned he was trying to get a little bit in more shape. What about Catalyst? Like, what do you think? And he kind of was flattered. And now they're both ended up chatting with each other and committing to it. And like seeing him now, it's great. Like walkabout's super skinny is what I told him. I saw him last week. I'm like, bro, you're skinny. Let's go. So both of them are doing great and it's been fun to watch and see from afar. So
that's outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just had Bullseye on and got to interview him. And I think it just hearing his journey, and it makes me think of like, you mentioned like self-doubt or self-confidence. And one of the things that we try to do, I think, in F3 is we try to help guys gain that confidence, particularly around leadership, right? So we give you leadership opportunities to teach you that, hey, like even you can lead, right? No matter what the world tells you. But what do you think from a leadership perspective? What are some of those lessons or things that you learned from F3 that maybe you've been able to apply? And maybe it was while you were site Q or maybe not, but what are some of those things that you feel like in F3 we could sort of take and apply elsewhere?
I think the best part about the leadership thing, the best thing from being a site Q was like, we're there to kind of set the room. And then the guy on the queue is in charge. And so like to let it go, I have a hard time or did still kind of struggle at times with delegation.
Yeah.
So it gave me that like, hey, I'm just here to support. I'm going to give, and I kind of related like 90s. I'm a group in the 90s. So like I would say I'm John Stockton, they're Karl Malone. I'm going to give you the ball. You're going to dunk it. John Stockton's one of my favorite players. So let's go. But anyways, like that's kind of the relationship there is like the delegation and like the setting the room and then just sitting back and like watching this other guy lead and crush it every week. Proud of that and happy that he's doing it. And then also finding the guys that, like you said, are unsure if they can do it and giving them the encouragement. So that's kind of the main thing I learned from site queuing and just from queuing every week or not. I do. It's like, I've got more confidence in public speaking and that's usually why I signed up. And then also I always try and bring in the gospel. And it helps me to my relationship with Christ is like, his great commission is to make fishers of men. So if like what I said that day can help anyone in their faith, that's a win for me.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah. It's so cool because I think also, right, when you share that stuff out loud, it's like one more layer now of accountability, right? Like if an F3 guy sees you out there behaving a way that's not in line with something you just said in a COT, right? We'll probably call each other on it, which I love. But what, as you're thinking back, so we've got this whole story, right? Grew up with faith and kind of traveled around, met a beautiful woman. Now you've got this beautiful family. I know you said kind of early on, right? You're 3 years in, no intention of stopping, but I don't know. I would just be curious, like how, as you think about like your legacy or even, just the impact that you have had or want to have, like anything missing from the story, anything that you would sort of pull out to say, you know what, this is really core to who I want to be, who I'm trying to be.
That's a great question. I don't know exactly how to answer that. The only thing I'm thinking is like, man, my goal in life isn't really to build a legacy. My goal is to enhance the legacy of Christ and to make sure everyone knows that it's the greatest story and greatest event ever in the world. It's just that dying for us. So that's kind of my answer. I don't know if that helps. And I remind myself like that, we mentioned it, like you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, like this is about you. Well, I remind myself daily, it's not about you. It's about what he did for me. And that's what I try and remind myself daily. So that would be my answer. Final answer.
Yeah, that's a great, no, I love it. I think it is so interesting, right? Because, the legacy and the world wants us to believe it's all about us, right? And so I think just knowing, and even in F3, guys of different faith, like that's sort of the core tenet, right? Like you want to come out to F3? Yes. What's the requirement? You just can't believe you are the king of the world, right? And that's really the only requirement. But what is you're thinking about, kind of current state? We like to kind of get from guys like, where do you need prayers or support or encouragement?
Yeah, no, right now it's just my main prayer requests are always like child rearing. You learn new things every day with them. There's days where they humble you and there's days where they surprise you. And just trying to be the best dad I can be. And the sense of like pointing them to, our creator, letting them know that Jesus loves them and showing that he loves them. See like what a godly man looks like daily. It's kind of my big stuff. Other than that, like, your day-to-day struggles, the industry I work in is very much, it's great. It's fast paced, but it can be stressful. And you can really fall into those habits of like foul language or not representing Christ as you want to be. So that's kind of my request there for prayers, if that makes sense.
Heck yeah. Be praying for that. I feel like the construction worker vocabulary, is that maybe what you're referring to? Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, we're pretty vulgar at times, but like, and it's kind of funny. So there's just a quick story. My basement flooded from one of those storms a couple years ago, and like I texted the guys I worked with at the time, and like without a doubt, they all dropped everything in the house, and like we ripped everything out, ripped all the floor up, and we were cutting all the drywall out from 2 feet up, so because it's all water damaged, and we're getting ready to replace it. So we had the basement like dried out or demoed and dried out just from 2 feet up, like within 8 hours. But like, and like my in-laws were over and they came over just watching the kids, and I was like, just bear with the language if you can. And my mother-in-law just looked at me. She goes, that's fine. I'm like, just know their heart's where their heart is. And that's like, as Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, like, just check your heart. That's about your heart posture, not like what you're physically saying or doing externally. So that's the reminder. And that's what kind of like I always say, like their heart's pure, but they cuss like a sailor. Yeah. So it's fine.
I love it. Fun. Well, it's cuss like a sailor, not like a construction worker. So you're,
exactly.
At least you're not part of the
bad.
analogy. Yeah. I love it. Well, let's, so before we do a NAMO, I do just have to say thank you. I mean, I think just, you shared your story here, but just out in the gloom, I think you are the same man that you say you want to be. Every time I interact with you, I'm just always impressed and encouraged by your faith and the example that you're setting. So I just want to affirm you in that. I see you, brother, and I think you're doing excellent work.
Awesome.
With your family as well. So with that, we'll do a little NAMO. Let's see. I'll start. So we'll go me, Gator, and then you can wrap us up.
Got it.
Sound good? Brandon Fleehardy, 40, The Plague.
Plague.
Mike
Duffy, 43, Gator.
Shomp.
Chase Fralick, 37, Reflux.
Reflux. Right?
Oh.
That's the sound. I don't think I knew the name story, but that was, at least it's always connected to your firstborn.
That's what I mean. I'm like, I can't wait for the 2.0, and he comes out and it's like, vomit or something.
Yeah, what's his name going to be? Chunks.
Yeah, Chunks. It could be.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you, man.
Thanks for sharing, man.
On our hands, hope in our chest. We're not defined by the weight of the test. Brothers in step, we carry the flame. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop, yeah. Every man's got a story inside. Standing strong, we won't hide. Every man, yeah. Every man's got a story. We've been broken, we've been bruised, but we rise again and we don't get to choose. Through the fire, through the fight, every man's story burns in the night. Scars on our hands, hope in our chest. We're not defined by the weight of the test. Brothers in step, we carry the flame. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. On a story to tell, from the valley low to the mountaintop yell. Every man's got a story inside. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop hill. Every man's got a story inside. Standing strong, we won't hide. Every man, yeah, every man's got a story. Every man's got a story. Voices rise like thunder, they roll. Truth in the pain, it's shaping the soul. Chains may rattle, but they break in time. Every man's story is yours and mine. From the struggle to the glory, every man's got a story. In the dark or in the light, we keep marching through the night. Every man's got a story inside. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop hill.